In today's interconnected world, we face complex challenges. And at the heart of them, there is one element that connects us all: water. Every year, we use more water, yet global availability is constant. If we don't act soon, by 2050, water scarcity may threaten up to 5 billion people. In 2015, the global community agreed on a unified agenda to solve these challenges. These common objectives are called the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. These goals should be achieved by 2030. Like water, they are all integrated. We can achieve them if we come together to manage our limited water resources like never before. That's why UNEP GHI Center, CAPNet, and GWP have joined forces to establish the SDG 6 IWRM support program, a platform to accelerate and coordinate effective action. Different stakeholders, but together they have a common goal: to understand the water-related challenges, design viable solutions for them, and implement integrated responses to help countries achieve the SDGs. Joining the dots between countries facing similar challenges, helping them to act locally, achieve their national targets, and link them to a global movement. Come together, be a part of the solution.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where on the world you are right now. My name is Colin Heron. I'm the SDG Program Manager at the Global Water Partnership, and I will be pleased to facilitate today's event. Thank you so much for being here and sharing in this learning exchange with us. This is the first in a series of at least 2 learning exchange activities that we will host on how to accelerate progress on SDG 6 through integrated water resources management. I'd like to take us through some quick housekeeping rules before we get started. So we will have interpretation available for all participants that require it in French. If you do require interpretation in French, please click on the icon below, which looks like a little world. Si vous avez besoin d'interprétation, il y a une icône en bas de l'écran en forme de monde qui vous donnera l'accès à l'interprétation en français. So all participants will be muted for today, except for the designated speakers and the rapporteurs. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to use the chat function at the bottom of the screen. We will try to answer live all of the questions that we can during the session, but any of those that we cannot today, we will answer afterwards. And if you have any difficulties with your audio connection, please check the how-to guidelines on the CAPNet website, or our tech hosts for today, Patricio and James, will be pleased to help you. Today, we will be walking through the agenda. So these are the objectives of the Learning Exchange today. We hope to help countries to face their sustainable development challenges using integrated water resources management as a key connector between the different agendas. By doing so, we also hope to help broaden the understanding of how the SDG 6 IWRM support program helps to assist countries. We saw the little video earlier, and a little bit later, we will have a presentation showing how the support program assists countries. We will also understand at the national level some of the challenges when developing and implementing IWRM action plans, and to share some of the experiences between countries that have already started on this journey and others that hope to continue on the same steps. And we will hope to also evaluate your interest in continuing this dialogue in the future. So if we can go on to next, please. This is just to run you through the order of today's activities. We will start with this opening section and some keynote remarks from Joachim Harlin, who is the Chief of the Freshwater Ecosystems Unit at the United Nations Environment Programme, our key partner. Then we will have a presentation a little bit more in detail on the SDG 6 IWRM support program. We will hear from two national experiences of countries that have already gone through the process of IWRM action planning. Following that, we will go into breakout groups where you will have the opportunity to dialogue directly with your peers on how to first understand and then overcome the challenges. And we will report back briefly from the breakout groups before then having a closing activity and some closing remarks from the Darío Soto Abril, the CEO of the Global Water Partnership. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Joachim Harlin, who I will be timekeeping, Joachim, and you have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Colin, and welcome everybody to this 2021 IWRM Learning Exchange. I'm very happy to be with you. And the first thing I want to do is to thank you all for reporting on SDG 651 last year. It was the second data drive we had, global data drive, on this SDG indicator, and 171 countries reported, despite the difficult conditions that we faced. So if we add together with the 2017 reporting, a total of 186 countries have now reported on this indicator. That's almost 97% of all countries in the world. So it's a pretty good number. But if we now look at the scores, the first data round in 2017, we had an average IWRM score of 49. And 2020, this increased to 54. So that's 5 unit points up. But we only have 9 years to go. So how can we use this information now, these results, to accelerate implementation? Because if we look at what's needed, if we are supposed to reach the target, we would need to at least double the pace, double the rate of IWRM implementation. That's quite serious. So the question is, what will it take? Well, as we can see from the past, business as usual is not really an option. So we have to think through how we can break through sectoral silos and work to create more policy coherence. And if we can do that, we will have, generated positive effects not only on 6.5 and SDG 6, but on Agenda 2030 as a whole. Now, we've seen that mobilizing finance seems to be a common denominator of constraint, and also to engage broadly all stakeholders. The question is, how can we go about that? What new things can we try? COVID now forced us to work differently, at least in the reporting phase. Perhaps we can use that as an opportunity to rethink the ways we do things. Maybe it can help us, and enable us to improve collaboration across borders and sectors using modern technologies. Let's think a little bit broader and discuss that. We're going to hear more about the IWRM support program that we UNEP are running together with GWP and CAPNet, and we are using that program in order to take the IWRM reporting and catalyze national action. That's the whole point. And another point here is to share experiences between countries like we're doing today, which in turn is a means of helping countries to advance more quickly. So I hope that we can be candid, that we can be generous in sharing our experiences and learnings, the good ones as well as the bad ones, towards that cause, so we can help to accelerate and advance IWRM implementation. Thank you very much. Back to you, Colin.
Thank you very much, Joachim, for those inspiring words. Now, to break the ice a little bit, I would like to hand over to Louise Desraini, the SDG Program Manager for Asia at the Global Water Partnership, who will take us through a little exercise to interact with all of you. Louise, over to you.
Thank you, Colin. In these sessions, we would like to kindly request your participations to answer 2 questions. Please kindly take your phone or open your computer browser, and please type in www.polef.com/GWP. Our tech host will share the, or you can simply clicking or copy paste the Polef link that will be shared by our colleagues in the chat box. Our tech host will share the live result directly. He is already sharing on our Zoom meeting screen, and we expect to get at least 60 or 50% of your answer, and we'll wait until we reach the number, at least 30 participants answering into our Polef. This allows us to get familiar with the polling tools, because we will be using this tool again at the end of the workshop to get feedback on our follow-up actions. So moving to the first questions, could you please answer which country or city are you now? Please click on where from the map in the browser of the Polef. So how many answer now we receive? I think we can see there are some green dots in each, almost representative of each continent. So this is also a way to embrace the technology that can enable us to virtually gather all around the globe into the one same events. And I see that we have a representative from each continent already, but I don't really see the answering the Polef, but I think we can move on to our second questions. And if anyone have difficulties to access to the Polef, please kindly write the issue in the chat box so our tech host can help you and guide you through the answer of your technical issues. And now our second question is, what was your role in monitoring the SDG 6.5.1 in 2020? Yeah, I see we already have some answer now. We already asked these questions during the registrations, but the reason to share this live is to get to know who finally able to join and participate to our event today. Yeah. So I see that we have 39% from GWP support network. Also, we have 15% participants from the consultations held in 2020. And I see some also 19% from other participants. Yeah, I think since I don't see any problem or issue in the chat box related to how to access to Polef, I think now we can move on to the next sessions. Thank you very much for your kind participations in our live polling sessions. And now I would like to hand over the thrones to Colin.
Yes, thank you, Louise. And it's very interesting to see that we have participation from all over the world, including different time zones. A couple of people from the Caribbean, I was impressed to see. This must be very early in the morning or very late at night for them. I will now walk you through what the SDG 6 IWRM support program is and how we aim to achieve our objectives through better water management as a contribution to sustainable development goals. If you can go on to next, please. The SDG 6 IWRM support program starts with what we term stage 1, which is really about the monitoring exercise that took place in 2017 and 2020 and will take place periodically from now to 2030. And this allows countries to identify the challenges and the opportunities around SDG 6.5, where the countries are doing better and where they need to advance more to accelerate sustainable development. In cases where we have a good alignment of political will and capacity to advance, we help countries to advance in developing action plans, which is the main focus for today's conversation. The action plans we will see a little bit later then have to be implemented, which is our stage 3. By implementing those actions, which are objectives for the country, we then should see through the stage 1 process significant progress in monitoring and accelerating integrated water resources management. So if you can go on to next, please. That is the theory, and we will hear in practice a little bit later in the session how that is working. So as Joachim referred to earlier, the global rate of progress on SDG 6.5.1 needs to at least double globally on average. In some countries, it needs to increase much more than that. Currently, 129 countries are not on track to have met the SDG 6.5.1 target by 2030. Next, please. You will be able to see how we have made progress globally. If you see the dotted line on the graph, there is progression upwards, but that is not at the rate or the speed that we require to reach the global targets. Next, please. So we have to do things differently, as Joachim mentioned. The IWRM action plans, first I will say what they are. They are an attempt to bring together different stakeholders over a multi-annual period to commit to advancing on the implementation of IWRM. They should ideally have a limited number of ambitious but also realistic priority interventions. Those interventions should be investment opportunities for all concerned, be it the public or the private sector, international or subnational bodies. The leadership of these IWRM action plans, as we will see today, is with the national governments, the mandated institutions for water resources management. And these action plans should be supportive to the existing policy frameworks. They're not an attempt to redo policy frameworks, but to help them be implemented in the best possible manner. And they are designed to help solve some of the country's greatest water-related challenges as a contribution to sustainable development. So if we go on to the next, we will see why we should implement action plans on IWRM. And we've always said in the water community that SDG 6 is at the heart of all of the SDGs. And in fact, I would go further in saying that SDG 6.5 is at the very heart of SDG 6. So really it is a connector to all of the sustainable development goals, be they around food security, ending hunger, sustainable cities, climate action, life on land, ending poverty. All of them will only be possible if water resources are really managed in an integrated manner with all of the different users and uses of water. And doing so will be a key contribution, not just to the SDGs, but also to the Paris Agreement, the Convention on Biological Diversity and the post-2020 framework for environmental security, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, just to mention that. And of course, as Joachim mentioned earlier, the COVID-19 response and building back better. So next, please. In terms of the how, we have an IWRM acceleration package, which I am pleased to share with you that it has been placed on our website and you can find it there. We will share the link in the chat. We are also developing an online course to facilitate knowledge sharing and capacity development on how to implement and how to plan for IWRM. We also have limited assistance available from the support program to help countries that are interested in advancing on this objective. We have an action searcher on our website where you can see the actions that have been identified and developed already by countries that we have supported so far. And we are also working on the concept of a community of practice to share lessons and experiences between all of those interested in advancing on IWRM in the future. We will hear some more about that today and in the follow-up to this session. So if we go to next, please. We can also see where we have defined IWRM action plans through the governments and the mandated institutions. We currently have 10 action plans that have been finalized. You can see that they are spread geographically pretty widely, and 2 action plans that are currently ongoing. And we have a waiting list of many other countries that have already shown their interest in advancing, and we will be following up with all of those countries in the coming weeks and months to formalize their commitment. Next, please. And how many? We have committed at the SDG 6 IWRM support program to assist at least 40 countries in developing IWRM action plans by 2025. If you're interested, please join us on this journey. This is your opportunity, and hopefully together we can help accelerate sustainable development in your country. All of the resources that I mentioned in the presentation are available on the website of the support program, the address of which you will see on your screens. And here you will also see our email address, where we will be very pleased to answer any questions that you have in English, French, or Spanish. That is the end of my presentation. To continue with today's activities, I would like to open up to hear directly from 2 of the countries that have gone through this process. So first up, we have a video from Vietnam, which was one of the 4 pilot countries. If you can go to next, please. We will listen to the experience from Vietnam, take a brief pause, and then listen to the second experience. Video, please.
Vietnam's abundant water endowment has shaped its development fortunes, with nearly 3,500 rivers of more than 10 kilometers in length, spread across 16 major river basins, and with plentiful rainfall, almost 2,000 millimeters a year. The country is rich in water resources. There are, however, risks inherent in the water resource. With about 10,200 cubic meters of renewable fresh water per capita, Vietnam's water availability is high by regional and global standards, though these resources are unevenly distributed across the country and seasons. In addition, 2/3 of Vietnam's water is transboundary and so is beyond its direct management. Vietnam is also vulnerable to water's great destructive power, with more than 70% of the population at risk from water-related natural disasters. It is one of the most hazard-prone countries in the East Asia and Pacific region, with a growing pattern of alternating flood and drought. The institutional and governance framework for water resources management has been established and evolved over time in response to the growing challenges of the water sector. 2 decades ago, the government adopted integrated water resource management as the basis for water resources planning, development, and management. For example, the 2012 law on water resources mandates this approach. The National Strategy on Water Resources to 2020 confirms that water resource management must be implemented in an integrated manner on a river basin basis. Vietnam has adopted an integrated water resource management approach, but faces challenges to implement the approach. Establishment of a basin-level planning and Management Committee, but the power is limited. The legal and regulatory framework for integrated water resource management has been established and is gradually being improved, but it is not fully implemented in practice. Data on water resource management remains limited and fragmented, and some economic instruments have been introduced, but implementation and incentive mechanisms remain limited.
In September 2015, countries adopted a set of 17 Sustainable Development Goals to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. Target 6.5, Water Resources Management. In order to achieve Target 6.5, Water Resources Management in Vietnam, the development of Integrated Water Resource Action Plan is necessary and urgent.
Creating a strategic direction for integrated water resource management implementation at all levels. This is the forum for policy, strategies, plans, legal and regulatory frameworks for integrated water resource management and for achieving Target 6.5 by 2030. Promoting the participation and coordination of all stakeholders at all levels to implement integrated water resources management. Raising awareness and understanding of stakeholders about Vietnam's water resources in general and integrated water resources management in particular. Increasing efficiency of water use in both quality and quantity. Increasing water productivity. Mitigating water-related disasters, especially floods, droughts, and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Mobilizing all resources, human, financial, and participation of stakeholders for the implementation of integrated water resources management.
I hope that you enjoyed that inspiring view of what was achieved and what could be also achieved in Vietnam. Now we will hear the experience of the Water Resources Commission from Ghana, and in particular how the IWRM action plan has been developed and is being implemented. Video, please.
The SDG 6 IWRM action plan for Ghana was actually completed in the year 2019 with the goal of accelerating implementation to achieve the SDG 6.5 target on IWRM and water-related goals by the year 2030. My presentation briefly is going to focus on the biggest opportunities that were presented by the IWRM action plan for Ghana. And then I'll follow up with how it actually helped Ghana to achieve, or is helping Ghana to achieve and advance IWRM implementation. In terms of the opportunities, first of all, it really came at a time when the country was in the process of determining or developing an overall national water strategic sector strategic plan. And indeed, it was a focus in terms of how the water resources management aspect of the strategy was developed and incorporated into the strategic plan. The second was that it actually gave us opportunity to start preparing towards the second reporting on the status of IWRM implementation as part of the SDG 6.5 reporting at the global level. So indeed, the IWRM action plan for Ghana really came at a opportune time and indeed help us to achieve these two specific issues or targets that were at hand for us. Moving on to how it is helping Ghana to advance on IWRM implementation. I'll basically focus on two things. First of all, if you look at the action plan, we have nine key action points that were adapted as part of for implementation as part of the plan. We have been able to incorporate the action plan into the overall national development plan. And as our processes indicate at the country level, we normally include these action points within our institutional work plan on an annual basis. So it has now become part of the National Development Plan, and the responsible institutions, especially the Water Resources Commission, is actually implementing these action plans as part of its annual development plan or annual working plan, so to speak. I'll give an example. We currently developing or reviewing the National Water Policy, which was done in 2007, and it's been part of our annual plan, and we hope that by the end of this year, it will have been completed. The second is the review of IWRM plans for two selected river basins, specifically the Pra and then the Tano. And it is also has been captured as part of our annual working plan, and is ongoing on very, very well. And I should hasten to add that indeed the GWP is supporting us to implement this particular action. And we are hopeful that by the end of the year, the review of these two action plans would have also, IWRM basin plans would have also been reviewed in terms of how to go forward and manage the basins. So all in all, I would say that the SDG 6 IWRM action plan for Ghana has been helpful, giving us the opportunities to, as it were, complete our national water strategic plan. Indeed, looking at the water resource management component of it, and also help us to report accurately in terms of our status on the IWRM implementation on the SDG 6.5, and also is helping us to form the basis of our national plan, our annual work plan, and helping us to achieve and implement the actions that are incorporated in the plan. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. It was very inspiring to hear those two perspectives from two of the countries that we have supported so far. So now, hopefully you've all listened carefully and been reflecting upon the relevance of the process for your own country. So now we will take you into a group dynamic, and to explain how that will work, I will hand over to my colleague, Anna Pierrobon, the SDG 6 Program Associate at GWP.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. So now we're going to move to a more interactive part of today's webinar. So we're going to move towards breakout groups. So you will be placed in a breakout group based on your language that you pre-selected signing up for this event. We ask you to first, in the group, answer the first question, which is, what are the main challenges when planning for and implementing an IWRM action plan? And then once there is agreement in the first part of the section on these, move on to the next question, thinking about how can we overcome these challenges. So without further ado, I will hand back to Colin to send us off to these groups, and I will copy the questions in the chat.
Thank you, Anna. And we can now go to the breakout groups. So see you on the other side. And just to remind you, you have 25 minutes for this exercise.
All right, so I will open the breakout rooms now.
Okay, welcome back everybody from cyberspace. I hope that exercise was useful and relevant for all of you. So we will now allow all of the rapporteurs from the different groups to report back briefly on their main findings. I will give each of you 1.5 minutes, and I will be very strict on time, so please don't test it, to report back on a couple of key highlights related to the challenges and the solutions. So if I could ask the tech host to share the Miro board, please, focusing first on group 1, while we see who the rapporteur was for that group. Louise was the facilitator for that group. Who was the rapporteur? I see Cho Hock Lim. Cho, the floor is yours and you have 1.5 minutes, please. Chow, is the microphone open for you?
Yes, thank you very much, Colin. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Right, okay. Our group did discuss on the challenges that we face, and I think there's a great consensus among all of us that most of us face the main problem. They're related to governance. The main issues of governance. We find that actually in many cases, in many of the country, water management is still very fragmented, and mainly the management is based on more of a sectorial basis. You see, there are too many hands or fingers involved in water. Currently, there's no single authority that's actually involved in terms of water management with the legal mandate given to them. And I think most of the cases, I think the trouble is that water management in a way is very fragmented. Obviously, I think we did also discuss on the possible solution. And I think the main thing is that I think we did talk about the need for capacity building, more so for, I think, all the relevant agencies that are involved in water, including even the decision makers itself, perhaps even politicians itself. And obviously, we do recognize that I think in decision making, there's a need to involve all stakeholders. And at times also, we need to look at the decisions that need to be made from top to bottom approach, as well as a bottom-up approach as well. So the dual kind of so-called approach is necessary. And at the same time, I think there's also need to give, at the same time, focusing on the need to have what you call the single mandate or authority, given the mandate, with a legal mandate to manage a country. So I think governance need to be addressed in the first place. And in this respect, in terms of capacity building, the group urged that perhaps GWP can play a very significant role in providing the necessary capacity building assessment and also assistance as well. Thank you very much.
Well, that was a very good summary, very intense. I would like to say that I hope very much that we could support all of those solutions. And really, if we did, then I think countries would be meeting this target that Joachim mentioned of at least doubling the rate of implementation of IWRM. So thank you so much for that, Charles. That was inspiring.
Welcome. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I now pass to group 2, please, if we can scroll to the left. The rapporteur is Fabia from Switzerland, I believe.
Yes, hi everyone. I think I can connect to group 1 with starting with the challenges. Actually, we also discussed it, water management is very segregated into different ministries there, and a lot of coordination is needed therefore. With different accessibility to resources. And then what we also discuss is that in many countries, we do have these federal systems that we have the national level, but these action plans are then finally elaborated in a very different surrounding at local level. Then another point that was discussed that in some cases there's just a lack of experts and focus or focal points, let's say. And what we then I move on to the solutions and connect to that, because there was a very interesting point from South Asian countries. I don't remember which country, but they're trying from like with the mandate from the cabinet, they're doing official training with certifications and also involving international experts to overcome this missing expert problem, for example. And then also we discussed that it needs more investments on the same level on these national focal points to bring even awareness into the whole system. And also, like one of a very effective way is probably to place legislation that ensures legitimation and implementation of IWRM. However, this is probably the most hard way to go. What else?
I think the time is up.
This time's up.
One final comment, perhaps?
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much. This is a great exercise, by the way, to condense so much rich input into something very actionable, and we are taking note of all of this. So thanks so much to all of you that have contributed, and especially to our rapporteurs. So could I go now to group 3? Yes, it's Anjali, right? Anjali.
Yes. Yeah, so in our group, we're bringing to you perspectives from the Water and Power Authority from Qatar, Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Thailand, and Ministry of Water Resources in Oman, as well as from UNEP DHI. So the main three buckets of challenges that we saw in our group, one was institutional and policy coherence. And this, we saw fragmentation when it comes to policy coherence, the ministries that have a stake when it comes to water, also difficulties communicating across levels, national to subnational levels when it comes to identifying challenges, and as well as IWRM action planning. So this fragmentation was one general bucket. And then another one was on enforcement of existing policies and plans, especially visible, for example, when it comes to pollution or water extraction. And then in the cases of Qatar, there were some really like this physical challenges as well. Water scarcity, the harsh weather there, and then the challenges in reducing consumption of potable water, different uses of water. This involves not only awareness, but also behavior change and having the right incentives in place along with that enforcement challenge that we had. In terms of solution, broadly, our group spoke about needing stronger interagency coordination that brought together different cross-sectoral perspectives, brought together meaningful engagement of stakeholders at all levels. In particular, the case of infrastructure development when it comes to multi-purposes, power, flood management, irrigation, managing the trade-offs among these different users and needs, and putting that into an implementable IWRM action plan. That could be one solution. From Qatar, we saw that strong leadership at the level, ministerial level, was a solution, was a response. They have a coordination team at the highest level with representatives from the ministers and department heads. So commitments are made at that level, and then at the technical level, it's kind of the implementation that needs to be taken. But the enforcement, because you have the highest levels on the coordination team, then there's some accountability in terms of implementation of actions. Then
Anjali,
yes,
sorry,
yeah.
Thank you very much for that. I know there's much more to say, but that was, I think, very interesting, and we're seeing some common trends between the different groups as well. And just one point I'd like to highlight from what you mentioned, of the many that were very valuable, is the need not just for better legal frameworks, but enforcement and high-level commitment. So with that in mind, I'd like to pass over to Group 4, if I may. Thanks, Anjali. And for Group 4, the rapporteur, we will see as we get there, is...
It's Marianne from UNDP.
Okay, Marianne.
So hello, everyone. Yeah, so we had a very good group discussion with many representatives from South and Southeast Asia and also Sweden. I think the main challenges resided both in the mainstreaming of IWRM plans, but above all the involvement of the relevant actors. And I think the major concern that was voiced is really to get the different government counterparts to get involved in the process. So government, people across different ministries, and then maybe more importantly, or as importantly, the local engagement, local communities reaching out, and also, like, for example, farming communities, the irrigators. And so that's an area where we feel, we're not reaching out sufficiently, and also the approach needs to be better organized in terms of working with these groups, and of course, better resourced. But there is also, varying, but there's quite a lot of appetite to participate. It seems like the broader stakeholder groups are interested in being involved in water resources management and planning. So we need to capitalize on that by sort of ensuring that we meet up with that. And for example, in the IWRM, data gathering, like the civil society organizations, we have been very forthcoming in many places. Another area which is sort of missing, and also then part of the solution, is information. That was like something that's, one part of the information is like about water resources, to have that more readily available, including rainfall and hydrologic information, but also about the process, for people to be involved, to have knowledge in good time of, here's an opportunity to engage in a discussion and a process to manage resources. And that information also involves coordination across agencies. That's another solution area there we need to be better at. So to bring in the different agencies, government ministries, but also beyond, where we feel there is a sort of an open door.
Thank you, Marianne.
Okay, transboundary was something also that we need to engage at the transboundary. Otherwise, the solution is resources, time, and then capacity development was the big one to improve the things. Sorry for going over time. Thank you.
That is brilliant. And I know this is a really difficult exercise to condense. What we're hearing is a huge amount of information being poured into 1.5 minutes. So I really appreciate this. And again, capacity development is one area that has been really highlighted. So we will certainly be taking note of that and seeing how we can follow up with countries afterwards. So, but without more ado, I'd like to hand over to Group 5. We have Paul, please, from UNEP DHI.
Thanks, Colin. Yes, we also had a good discussion and echoing many of the points that have come up already as well. You can see who we had represented there in the challenges, the different countries. 4 main challenges I'd like to highlight with the kind of competition for sort of political space and for limited budgets between the different subsectors, really. The challenges of working at the federal level when a lot of the responsibility for water management is at the state level, and how to address that, and the fact that transboundary issues are huge challenges as well when a lot of the water is coming from outside of the country. In terms of solutions, again, capacity came up as a key one, and some requests for external technical support and financial support as well from outside the country. And beyond capacity, also a need for advocacy of the value and importance of implementing the integrated approaches to the different sectors and sectors, and also the value of operating at the river basin level also came out strongly. So sort of transferring the plans from the national level into being more implementable at basin levels. And that's it.
Thank you, Paul. That was extraordinarily rich as well. And I'd like to now pass actually from one end of the globe to the other, and one island again to another. We have, so our next is with Ronald from Trinidad and Tobago. So Ronald, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Colin, and hi, everyone. We had quite an interesting discussion as well, and much of the points that have already been raised would have been mentioned in our group as well. I would just highlight some of those that may not have been said before, and one is the missing institutional setup to implement policy. The other thing was political will, which I think a lot of persons would have already mentioned, and conflicting priorities between state agencies, and the questions of responsibility remains key, because you have essentially, like I say this, if you have multiple people or agencies responsible for one thing, many times no one is responsible because you cannot hold anybody accountable. And that creates one of the main challenges. And the other thing that we spoke about was the policies and implementation plans, and the fact that they may not always be translatable to politicians. And we have to make it in such a way that politicians can understand from a scientific perspective to a more socioeconomic perspective, and things that they would identify with. Other than that, I think the other thing was lack of country-specific data, which I'm not sure, I don't think anybody mentioned that specifically, in terms of guiding the decision-making process, and capacity building, which was mentioned by everyone. In terms of the solutions, we looked at, well, obviously capacity development, stakeholder awareness, and a sustained policy that goes beyond government or legislative periods. So a long-term vision rather than a short-term one. And I think in summary, that's about it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. And sorry for rushing you all with these summaries. We will make sure that this information is available afterwards. But yeah, some excellent points coming through from these breakout groups. Next group is the rapporteur is Danny, please. Danny Gaillard-Pichet from GWP.
Hi, we had a really exciting conversation with representatives from Tunisia and Mali. What emerged as the greatest challenge is about financing and economic difficulties for implementation. There are some solutions around bilateral support and ODA, but there really needs to be more work in this on this side of things from what we heard. The second area is about the coordination of action. Again, we've heard from other groups. What is on paper and what it happens in practice is often quite different. And it's challenging to coincide a national approach, which is a reporting process, with the management approach, which is sometimes basin oriented and implies transboundary issues as well. And that's compounded by the fact that in both of these countries, the decentralization of responsibilities towards local authorities means that there's multiple levels of decision making to coordinate. One interesting solution is that in that decentralization process, it actually encouraged more PPPs. So you had the private sector becoming involved to a greater extent in some of these solutions. Again, in our group, capacity reinforcement was noted as a good solution to help explore these challenges and solutions. And finally, we also noted that the COVID pandemic is slowing progress, and that's non-negligible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danny. And Danny had the unenviable task of doing the report back in English on a breakout group in French. So thanks so much for that. And the last but not least, which was the same, also in French, but Julienne will be reporting back in English. Julienne, over to you, please.
Thank you, Colin. In our group, we had representatives from Burkina Faso and Mali. So both countries started working on IWRM in the year 2000s, and Burkina Faso actually is very much recognized as a pioneer country in West Africa. So overall, they have a lot of experience with action planning for IWRM. Both are, they have had several iterations, and they have no particular difficulty in elaborating their new action plans. They're building on their experiences. However, there are multiple difficulties in implementation, especially in terms of accessing financial resources needed, in terms of managing the difficult security situation in the countries, and sometimes also having difficulties in implementing some planned institutional mechanisms like the creation of water basin agencies in Mali. Some of the solutions that were discussed include on the financing front, establishing a water tax and implementing it, also advocating vis-à-vis new technical and financial partners. The development of a water police, so mechanisms to ensure compliance with the water law was, as I mentioned, as a really good avenue going forward. So it's already in place in Burkina Faso and it's in development in Mali. And finally, and this is really fitting with the theme today, experience sharing across countries is very important. Just last week, a delegation from Mali was in Burkina Faso to learn about their experience with water basin agencies. So that experience sharing is happening at the regional level, also very important at the global level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julienne, and thank you to all of our rapporteurs for the excellent summaries and to all of the participants in the breakout groups. So that is now the opportunity to have a warm down exercise. So to walk us through that, I would like to hand over to Louise Desraini, again, the SDG Program Manager for Asia at GWP. Louise, over to you, please.
Thank you, Colin. So now, just to briefly back again to the POLF sessions, I would like to request once again to open your phone or computer browser. Please type in www.polf.com/GWP or just by clicking the link in the chat box. First questions, in 1 to 3 words, please summarize your experience with today's sessions. I can see in the screens, okay, energize, good, inspiring, and interesting, diverse, yeah, because we have a lot of representation from countries with different experience, informative, dynamic, useful, and also sharing, energize, okay, planned, yeah, I think, yeah, we can see it's evolving. The answer is keep evolving. Enjoyable, okay, interesting. An opportunity, definitely will be an opportunity for collaborations as well. Yeah, so I think now we can move to the second questions. The second question would be, would you be interested in taking part in an online course on IWRM action planning? So we are currently in GWP developing this online course on IWRM action plan, and it will be launched, planned to be launched in third quarter of this year. So by having your feedback, it will help us also to develop, to finalize the development of this course. Yeah, sure. Okay, good things. We receive mostly positive feedback. I think you can also mention, if not, what would be the reasons to not interested in the course, or if you have also other comments, please also write it in the answer. No, thank you. Okay, it's interesting to know why. No, thank you. Okay, as it is done in this session for us. Oh, must be practical. Definitely agree with the comment. And if you also have, for example, input on how would be this IWRM action planning course, also please mention in the answer on how to raise awareness and commitment for good water management, definitely. Okay, also for GWP Toolbox, merci, must be very relevant and not too general.
Louisa, I think we can go on to the final question now.
Okay. Now, the final question, would you be interested in continuing the dialogue through a community of practice? Yes, no, or probably unsure. And please also give your comment. So if we, GWP, try to develop a community of practice on IWRM and will be plans to launch by the end of this year. Will you be interested in taking part? Don't know what it is. Okay, so the community of practice would bring together key practitioners within GWP existing network, which includes you as country focal point of IWRM, country water partnership, or even regional water partnerships. So we can advance on the reporting on SDG 6.5.1 and also the design and implementations of IWRM action plan at the national level. Oh, I see from the checkbox. Yes, but it will be good if we have an idea before so we can prepare. Yeah, but I think we have to find ways to move beyond dialogue. Yeah, so we will keep this POLF open, so you can still write it, all of your insight and input regarding this community of practice. For this, I will hand back to you, Colin. Thank you very much for participation in the POLF.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you to all of you. And this event for us here at GWP has been extraordinarily interesting. And I'd really like to say that we will be very keen to follow up with all of you after this event to capture your continued interest. But to close the event for now, I would like to hand over to the CEO of the Global Water Partnership, Dario Soto-Abril, who will give us some closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, Colin and team, and thank you for organizing such a great meeting. I was present the whole meeting, Colin, just because I wanted to learn more about the topic, so thank you. And oh, I'm sorry, my video. Sure. I'll start again. So thank you very much again, Colin and team, for the invitation. I was in the whole meeting, paying attention, learning a lot. So I was quiet, listening to the different interventions. Great organization, and also thank you to all the participants, people who joined from all over the place. Even you noted at the beginning, people from the Caribbean, which is very early over there. I also want to thank our partners, so UNEP, the HI Center, and UNEP, UNDP CAPNet for their support on this. It's great to have really this notion of collaborative work. And I want to say that I was really impressed with the different interventions and ideas that came out today. To me, I take from the Miro board, one, they need to have more diversity in the number of partners, but also have more collaboration across countries to share experiences. And also, someone mentioned the need to involve farmer communities or the type of practitioners, so to bring IWRM more to a more highest level, to get others to join us. I also want to take note of a comment, Colin, that you made at the beginning, that for the SDG number 6.5 to be fully implementable, we have to double the rate of implementation or progress that we have today. So we have to do even much more. So I'm very happy to see the proposal of having an online training and having the community of practitioners. And my encouragement to all of you is to keep this work going, and also to question ourselves, how can we involve others? How can we make this work even more attractive than it is right now? And how can we, as Colin, I think that's your call to action to all of us, Colin, how can we indeed double the rate of implementation and the rate of progress? I think that's the key. And so beyond the activities that we are proposing today, what other ideas do we have? And how can each of us in this course or in this activity today become replicators of what are we going to do today and tomorrow with the information that we got today in this webinar. So thank you again for joining. Really enjoyed, and thank you for the conversations and for hosting me. And thank you to all of you for joining and for sharing your wisdom. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dario. And with that, we declare today's session finalized, but not the efforts of the SDG 6 IWRM support program. So we will be very pleased to follow up with you afterwards on sharing the information from today, sharing the website, and sharing some next steps. So thank you all. Have a good day, good evening, good night, or depending on where you are in the world, and take care. Bye.